in, how does that feel? Does that feel like what's bothering you? And very often that's what's causing a lot of people, even people who come in with tendonitis type pain, that usually will set off where they're getting a lot of discomfort. You didn't have any discomfort with that?
No.
So again, he's healthy enough to overcome that, but that is something that could be a potential problem with him, especially if he overtrains or anything, so that we want to address. Need to get a little stronger here. Definitely need to work on flexibility here and try to build up the reserves posteriorly. Okay, so Ober's test is one of those classic tests that I always look at because it gives me a lot of information. Typically, I don't do the classic Thomas test just as a time saver. The classic Thomas test will do, let me have it come down here. This is a flexible table, so don't jump too far. Good, I'm going to sit on it. Just now, you have to scoot down far enough so the legs are extended off. Now what I want you to do, just grab hold. Let's actually do this leg. Grab hold. Now you go ahead and lay back. Alright? So he holds this leg up here, and usually the tester is going to be in front, brings him up as he lays back. Now I let the leg down. So when he lets it down, you saw how his leg came out to the side. So that's indicative that he not only has a little bit of hip flexor tightness, his quad tightness isn't too bad because he's almost dropping straight to 90, but he came out to the side. So again, that indicates how tight he is laterally, pulling him out to the side here. Okay? And then you would do the opposite side. What I typically do, once you scoot up, lie down on your stomach. What I typically do is I'm just going to very quickly just bring him up, alright? Get a sense, and I can watch his pelvis, how it's moving, even just doing this. And you see how he's rising up and rotating a little bit as you do this? What's happening is he's picking up and coming this way. So that tells me the muscles are trying to clear a little bit. Grab him underneath. Now I preload the hip flexor, stabilize him. Now I do this. I can only get his leg to about here, and he's already tensing up in here. So this is a pretty strong indicator that his hip flexors are definitely a problem. I can also look at the sequencing of the glutes, hams, and also the back when we do hip extension. So if I have you keep the knee straight, go ahead and lift up your leg, all right, and down. He's a little overexcited, so we'll have him just do one leg at a time. All right, let's go ahead and lift up and down. And he gets some pretty good patterning. Go ahead and lift up. Alright, so what you're looking for is to get that glute max to fire first. You're going to get the opposite back muscles and then the same back muscles to kick in. And you're also looking for the hamstrings to kick in typically about the same time as the opposite side. A lot of times people will over-rely on their hamstrings. Their glutes are a little bit inhibited or wasted. Have some weakness here, that's going to be an issue. You can even go ahead and lift up again. Okay, up here, you try to hold for me and get a sense of how strong they really are. You shouldn't be able to break them, that's good, break them easily, but a lot of people you are going to find that is going to be true. Alright, hip abduction, typically what we're looking at is looking for the same sequencing. I can test him a hip abduction in the same sideline fashion where I was testing the Ober's test. Go ahead and lie on the side again. So to really truly look at some of that posterior abductor musculature, you want to make sure that you stabilize pretty well. You want to line them up. We've already tested the Ober's test. Now I would extend the leg. The thing is, you've got to keep this hip forward. If you don't keep it forward, you're going to be testing the tensor, and they're already pretty strong there. His quads are going to start to kick in if he starts to externally rotate. You want to try to maintain some relative alignment of the body. I wouldn't want him to be in this position here because that's the same as putting him in hip flexion, and again, that tensor is going to get in the way. So we want to try to maintain some stability. You can grab onto the side so you don't feel like you're rolling, but again, you want to try to keep this relatively straight. And if I bring him up and bring him into a little bit of hip flexion here, now hold right here for me. Hold, don't bring that leg forward, hold it. You can see him working, hold, 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 hold. Okay, that's not too bad. Now if I had him just do this a little bit, now hold. Come on. Hold, hold, hold. You can see I can almost get on top of him to hold it here, whereas just that little bit of extension, hold again, hold, hold, hold. He starts to break here and I can push him down. You're going to see that very commonly. He had pretty good strength, but the fact is I think if we tested his other side, he would exhibit a little bit more weakness on that side. So the main thing, if we're looking at it, you got to keep that leg forward, you got to maintain that stability, otherwise they're going to have some pretty interesting strategies to try to fight you. Alright, isolated muscle testing, we'll look at the quad, but typically I do that with a step test, and we'll do that in just a minute. Glute medius and minimus, like I just tested, really critical because it's a very common area to have a deficit. And hamstring, I'm just going to do a break test, lie on your stomach. A lot of people are going to cramp if they do have some weakness, so I get them into this position. Basically, maximal advantage, my elbow straight, so it's going to be easy for me to break him. Hold in this position, hold, try to push into my hand a little bit, now hold, and I'll just try to push him down. Pretty good hamstring strength. So again, we were worried before that his hamstrings were going to be a little weak. This isn't where his biggest deficit is. It's definitely going to be up around his hip. So we need to really work on this, but it gives you an idea of where you want to key in on some of the strengthening. Okay, let me have you hop up. I'm going to have you do a step up on this. So we'll face up this way. So if we take a step, and basically what I'm going to have him do is you're going to put your foot on here, put the foot right next to it, and I want you to lift the toes. Good. So lifting the toes on this side, it won't give him the ability to push off the gastroc on the side, sort of push off and you have no idea what's going on. Go ahead and step up and down, nice and smooth, not too fast. Go ahead and step up again and down. Alright, so you can see it's fairly subtle. Again, he's pretty fit, so he can compensate for it, but especially on the eccentric coming down, he drops in a little bit. So as much as possible, you want to get a feel for the first couple reps. Go up and down. Good. And then you cue them into that and see if they can control it. If they can't, it's definitely something that you need to work on. Then we'll go to the other side. Switch around. Alright, same thing. Lift the toes. Go ahead and step up and down. So you're actually assessing balance when they come up too. When they come up and their inability to hold that, because a lot of people will just say, I don't have good balance. But that gives you an idea that those are some of the things that you want to focus on. And obviously we're looking at, okay, how well is the medialis firing compared to the lateralis? The medialis should be active through the whole movement, not just that terminal extension. But again, if someone came in with a specific knee injury or post-op, we may cue in a little bit more on that vastus medialis and look at it isometrically on the table. And what you're doing isometrically is not only looking at their ability to contract, how quickly it comes in. It should be at the same time or even a little bit before the lateralis. And if they can't do that, what's going to happen is the rectus and the lateralis are going to dominate. That even though the VMO is kicking in, it's not going to be enough to keep that patella in the trochlear groove, and it's going to track laterally. And again, you start getting into some of the PF issues. Alright, so that's very quickly the assessment. Did you guys want to take a look at any